Andrew Jones is a bit of an anomaly when it comes to speaker designers. He's a capable engineer, but there's plenty of those about in this industry. And whilst most wouldn't be seen dead in front of the camera, Mr. Jones seems quite comfortable in the spotlight. He also has a knack of being able to explain technical things very simply. I've heard a number of Andrew Jones designed speakers over the years. The original debut series that was his launch product during his ELAC tenure, the Uni-Fi speakers that he followed up with as an entry point into his dual concentric designs, and the active Navis speakers that are a competitor to the KEF LS3 wireless, to name just a few. It's fine listening to things at shows and in other environments, but in order to find out how something really performs, I need to get it home. The thing is, in all this time, I'm still to review an AJ designed speaker. I've reviewed an ELAC speaker before, but that was designed by somebody else. I thought it's about time I righted a wrong, but which one to pick? Well, the Uni-Fi reference UBR62, as far as I'm aware, represents one of the very last speakers that Mr. Jones designed before he parted ways with ELAC. I picked it for another reason too. It's the cheapest range of speakers where Andrew is able to express himself really as a designer. Let's face it, he's all about dual concentric designs. So the question is, how good is an Andrew Jones designed speaker? The ELAC Uni-Fi reference UBR62 retails for £749 in the UK, available in a satin white with oak vinyl sides or the satin black with a walnut vinyl wrap that I have in for review. The wrap is the only giveaway of cosmetic compromise. I don't expect a real wood veneer on a three-way speaker below £1,000, but I would have preferred a painted finish. The UBR62 measures 359 by 208 by 334 millimeters, and each speaker weighs 10.7 kilograms. Imperial measurements are 14.1 by 8.2 by 13.2 inches and 23.5 pounds. The cabinet is constructed from eco-friendly Carb 2 rated MDF. A 25mm 1-inch soft dome tweeter is mounted concentrically within a 100mm 4-inch aluminium cone mid-range unit that handles frequencies between 260 and 1800 Hz. At first glance, it may be easily overlooked, but yes, this is a three-way design. Another aluminium cone measures 165mm 6.5 inches, taking care of low frequencies. The UBR62 is a front-ported design with a slotted aperture, flared internally and externally to aid airflow and reduce chuffing noises. All there is to see at the back are two sets of decent quality all-metal 5-way speaker binding posts, hence keeping the options to buy wire or buy amp open. I'd assumed that the Uni-Fi reference was just a tweaked version of the Uni-Fi 2.0 speakers that are still available. The UBR52 in that series presently retails for £599, a saving of £150. That isn't the case. The reference UBR62 is a completely different ground-up design with larger cabinet in each of the dimensions, as well as a different port arrangement and completely different drivers and crossover components. The new dual concentric driver has a mid-range unit with a larger diameter voice coil and rear vented spider. There's a revised neodymium magnet structure to allow for better excursion and control of mid-range frequencies. It now sits in a cast chassis to reduce resonances. The bass driver has also been improved to feature a single-piece compound curvature aluminium cone. It has a larger rear-vented magnet which is supposed to improve linearity over the driver in the 2.0 series. My impression of hearing ELAC speakers in the past has always been warm-sounding speakers with a punchy bass, full-sounding mid-range, but a little rolled off in the highs. Nice, easy listening speakers, but not the last word in detail. Well, am I right? Yeah, that is pretty much the character of this speaker as well. Review over, see you next time. Hang on a second, there has to be more to it than that. Yes, The overall tonal characteristic is on the warm, rich side of neutral, but not as much as I was expecting. I'd wager that this speaker isn't quite as coloured as some of the earlier ELAC offerings. Now, there's no way of me knowing that without getting those speakers in, which isn't likely to happen. So this is purely my best guess. There's a fair amount of bass weight for a speaker of this size. That extra bit of emphasis down below will get your ankle twitching when things get motoring. Yes, it comes at the expense of bass definition, even for a sub £1,000 speaker, but it's only the techno and metal enthusiasts that I think will be left wanting. There's a very natural way in which vocals are expressed. Lead instruments have that harmonically saturated sound that will appeal to many. It's a combination of the full bass and mid-range that is perhaps the reason why ELAC speakers are so popular. It is at the expense of resolving some information. The similarly priced Sound Artist LS3 5A has it beaten when it comes to defining transients, timbral inflections and realizing decays. But that's a smaller speaker that won't play as loud, dig as deep in the bass, or deliver the same dynamic impact. As I said earlier, the high frequencies are a little bit rolled off, but yet again, not as much as I was expecting. If you're looking for a tell me everything kind of speaker, this is not the one for you. Upper harmonics and spatial cues are obscured enough to make the imaging a little bit vague, even though the soundstage extends reasonably beyond the speakers left and right, and also with a respectable amount of soundstage depth. The Amphion Argon 1s at £1,300 represent quite a jump up in price, but also in performance. You hear a lot more of what's on the recording. The bass is tighter, mid-range cleaner, highs better expressed, and everything in the soundstage is more precise and focused. Regular viewers of this channel will be aware that my main criticism of the Argon 1s is there's a touch of leanness to the mid-range that needs to be compensated for with partnering equipment if you want a balanced sound to listen to a wide range of music. In comparison, the ELAC speakers have an overall presentation that's very forgiving, especially of those tracks that we all love but may sound less than satisfying on highly resolving systems. The UBR62s have the kind of sonic signature that you can listen to all day without any listening fatigue. They're also extremely good at low listening volumes, but not everything about them is so easygoing. So let's get into that next. There's a fair amount of bass generated from these Uni-Fi reference speakers, so I did have to experiment quite a bit to get the positioning right in my room. Pulling them well into the room helped to improve bass definition. In the end, I settled on 42.5 inches, 108 centimeters measuring from the center of the front baffle to the wall behind them. Also towed in more than normal to get a little bit more energy from the tweeters, not pointing directly at my ears, but certainly at my shoulders. They aren't fussy about the amplifiers that you pair with them though. That isn't to say that the UBR62s have no coloration. They certainly do. If I was getting my audiophile cliche handbook out, words like warm, rich, musical, organic, smooth are all adjectives that I could use to describe the sound. They'll certainly shift the direction of any amplifier that you pair with them in that direction. I think the thing is that despite the fact that they're only 85 dB sensitivity into a 6 ohm load, I don't think they're particularly difficult to drive. I wouldn't expect any unusual dips or bumps in the impedance plot, and I suspect there aren't any tricky phase angles in the electrical response either. That isn't the reputation of Uni-Fi speakers of the past, by the way. To prove my point, I hooked them up to the petite 30 watt per channel, £1,200 NVA P50 S80 stack that I recently reviewed. That power amplifier was initially designed to run tweeters and mid-range units in biamp configuration with their larger amps. It's such a beautifully quiet and transparent amplifier that it became popular in its own right with high sensitivity speakers and desktop scenarios. You'd ideally want an amplifier with a little bit more current capability to keep a tight grip on those woofers, but at low and moderate volumes, the little MVAs did fine. The i2VX SA3 at £449 is more likely to be the kind of amplifier that's going to be a stablemate for the UBR62s, with a 50 watt per channel rating into 8 ohms, fed by a decent quality internal power supply. it makes a good starting point for the Uni-Fis. The SA3 has that smile presentation, drawing your attention to the frequency extremes rather than the mid-range. It has the sonic profile that should be ideally suited to the ELACs, and yes, the overall tonal character is balanced, but the UBR62s are all about that full presentation, and I found the combination to be a tad introverted. That wasn't the case with the Cambridge Audio AXA35 that costs £349. The CA amplifier throws out a big sound, and I'm pleased to report that that fullness and dynamism that is the UBR62's thing was back with this pairing. Okay, so the AXA35 is a warm sounding amplifier. Combining it with warm sounding speakers isn't going to result in a cool analytical presentation, but neither component has excessive coloration to go too far in that direction if you prefer a more relaxed listening experience. I switched to the Exposure 2510 to find out how the Uni-Fi stand mounts scale up. There was an improvement in clarity, scale, control, and a lack of coloration. But at almost 5 times the price of the Cambridge, worth the extra? Absolutely not in this case. Finally, as promised, I wanted to report my findings of the Marantz Model 40N that I just reviewed. It's a 70 watt per channel into 8-ohm Class AB streaming amplifier that retails for £2,199. The tonal balance shifted again, this time to something similar to what was achieved with the Cambridge Audio AXA35, a distinctly warm coloration. It was clear that the Marantz offered greater dynamics, better bass control, an increase in soundstage and fidelity, but not enough to justify the extra outlay over the more affordable amplifiers that I'd tried. The ELAC Uni-Fi reference UBR62s are attractive, well-constructed speakers. They offer a full, rich sound without being overly coloured. There's decent clarity with a good sense of scale and dynamics that will appeal to people who listen to a wide range of music. They're not speakers for the analytical audiophile who'll seek alternatives that provide a less opaque window into their music. That means ultimately, as you upgrade amplification, the resolving limitations of these speakers also become apparent. But there's plenty of people out there who want nice looking, decent sounding speakers that play really well with price appropriate gear, and also partner with a wide variety of amplifiers and are forgiving of less than perfect recordings. The overall package here is very good value. The ELAC Uni-Fi reference UBR62s get a highly recommended from this channel. We talk about gear here a lot, so this time let's talk about music. My question of the day is, what are the tracks that you really love that you wish were better recorded? I think that would be a great thing to share in the comments section. All that remains for me to say is, if you like what I'm doing with this channel and you want to see it grow, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you haven't done so already. I will urge you to check out my Patreon, their consultancy services there, if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. There's also the ABA Club on Patreon that has a bunch of benefits, very active WhatsApp group, behind the scenes videos, and video calls that we have face to face periodically. But for today, for now, a British audiophile signing off.